three ways in which we can develop applications on SAP BTP. We can either choose RESTful ABAP programming model, we can use cloud application development programming model, or we can use this no-code application development tool, dedicated no-code application development tool called SAP Build Apps. Now, this is a designated or dedicated low-code application development tool, but we also saw that when we are building a CAPM application, there are certain ways in which you could build low-code. You can follow the template wizard, or you could follow the guided development tools to build an application, a Fiori elements-based application. Similarly, in ABAP environment using RESTful ABAP, there is a way to generate all the artifacts rather than code all the artifacts. So I call that also as a low-code application development tool, because essentially we don't have to write any piece of code. It all gets generated on its own. So that would also be a part of building low-code applications on CAPM or RAP. So that would be my conclusion on all the applications that can be built. Moving on, we'll talk a little about the extensibility options available on SAP BTP. As will connect it with the S/4HANA extensibility and ABAP. A lot of it would be ABAP centric, because we are talking about extensions. We are essentially aiming towards extending standard applications which are available on an on-premise parallel landscape available. So that's why a lot of this discussion would be ABAP centric, because these extensions we would be creating would be ABAP extensions, or extensions in applications which are built using ABAP on premise. So how and what are all the tools available today, right? So what is the big picture of extensions, and what are the methodologies available today? So if we talk about extensions, there are basically two major lines going on. I would say storylines, or there are two major approaches available. One is called in-app extensibility, and the other one is called side-by-side extensibility. So if we essentially talk about the application extension, you could either do an extension then and there, or you could do a side-by-side extension on SAP BTP. SAP's in-app extensibility comes as a developer extensibility option, and in between SAP BTP and S4, we can have a secured connectivity, and this is applicable to user interfaces, rules, workflows, event mesh, or even to the data replication, any of those scenarios. Some features, right? So if we are working on an in-app extensibility project, we can adapt new user interface. We can create custom analytics from the existing analytics. If you would like to expose additional data compared to what is available today in any certain application, we can do. We can create form email templates, add logic to a standard application, and we can also add the fields to the database objects with the help of in-app extensibility. With the help of side-by-side extensibility, you can entirely, so rather than adopting, you can entirely refresh the user interface, and you can even change it to a different layout. You can build a cloud native extension, and which could be a B2C or a B2B extension also. So if we go about integration suite, which is another available service, it allows you to build B2B specific integrations, which can follow two different business standards on each side. So it's basically designed for B2B integrations. Process innovation can be done. You can entirely change the process because you're basically doing a side-by-side extension. Um, in general words, it's a copy, and you're free to change as much as you can. And it allows you to integrate with the concepts like IoT or big data. So that's what is available today. All the additions of extensibility uh, on S/4HANA, on cloud or private cloud or on premise, and on SAP BTP. And what are the scenarios? So if you look at the blue ones here and the green ones here, let's say if I would like to create a custom business object, I would have a database table, I would have an application on top of it. It can be an ABAP report, or it can be a CDS-based Fiori application, or a RAP-based application. Now we have talked about RAP architecture. It would essentially create an OData service on top of it. And on the top of OData service, we would have a user interface, which would mostly be in Fiori, uh, and which would be exposed to Fiori Launchpad for the users to access. And, and that's basically the life of a custom application. When we talk about side-by-side extensibility, or first let's talk about the in-app extensibility, what we do is on the top of database tables, you can put we can put our own custom fields. We can put our own custom business logic. Similarly, at the application level or the ABAP, either it is built in ABAP or CDS, we can add our own custom fields with the help of CDS logic, or with the help of CDS. In the behavior definitions or class implementing the behavior definition, we can add our own ABAP or business logic. We can also add certain forms or trigger certain forms if we want to. And then at the level of OData, there isn't much available in terms of customization, but we can do in-app extensibility at OData level. On the user interface, we cannot uh, do side-by-side extensibility. We'll basically have to copy and do an extension or create a custom extension, but we can do in-app extensions at user interface. So let's say at many of the times, these three layers would not allow you to do a certain things, although if we have few options available at each of these layers, but not always true. Let's say if you have certain SAP standard application and you want to call an entirely different OData service, we end up creating UI adaptations or UI extensions or buttons on UI, and then calling that OData service from the UI itself. So in these scenarios, we would end up creating UI adaptation projects. We can do side-by-side extension though on all these layers. So we can do on the database layer, we can create a side-by-side extension. And although we'll have to do data replication at that level, we can do side-by-side extension at the application layer, or we can create custom fields. We can add fields, we can add our logic. Then again, we'll have to integrate with the help of a cloud platform service, or we'll have to make an event-based integration. We can do side-by-side extension even at the OData level, but then again, with the help of a service, we'll have to integrate or keep interactions. In case of side-by-side extension, we can entirely create a custom Fiori application or custom Fiori interface, and then it can be exposed on the Fiori Launchpad, either on BTP, or it can be exposed on the Fiori Launchpad, the central Fiori Launchpad on premise, whatever we choose to. I have attached two websites here. One is the Extensibility Explorer. So it allows us to look into this sample scenarios and read about the details of it. You might need a customer login to be able to log on to this detail, or a partner login. I haven't tried this out, but it's a nice website. I have checked this out in certain sample scenarios at least. So probably if you have a customer log on or a partner log on, probably try that out. The other one is the extensibility guide. That can lead me to this document. And it is a detailed document about extensions and what is going on during the ASUG. What are the key concepts of extension on S4HANA? And this is where I picked it up from. So we can go about reading if we would like to go into the details of extensibility from this documentation.
Yeah, one question. So when we talk about in-app extensions, so is it very similar to the enhancements that we do on on the S4HANA side?
I mean, in the methodology, it's not similar how we do it, but the idea is very similar. Like, we basically go and create hooks in the standard objects and write our own code. So the idea is very similar, that you you change by adding small pieces somewhere or small hooks somewhere, like a custom function or something. But the ways are different, because in-app extensibility is extensively talking about developing Fiori applications, right? Extending Fiori applications. So it involves creating a CDS extension. Then probably if we want to add a field at CDS level, or an extension at the UI end, if we would like to add an extension on the user interface. So there are different ways to add these extensions. Like, it's not like going and finding a baddie and implementing a baddie, or implementing a user or a custom function. But the idea is same. Yeah, it is a change, basically a modification in the standard code, wherein when we talk about side-by-side extension, basically it's like creating a copy and working with the standard, uh, not creating a copy, but creating an instance and working hand in hand with the standard functionality. So yeah, take a look at those documents in the website. Personas are not very important, but when we are extending a project, and we all probably have gone through it. So who would like to extend an application, uh, and where would I need access to an application? So as a developer, I would probably need um, access from the viewpoint of SAP Business Application Studio on SAP Business Technology Platform, but a key user would probably go via the SAP HANA um, Fiori applications, or SAP as for an on-premise user would probably go about the SAP GUI transactions, if somebody is still using that, or if business are still allowing that. We would also have an integration between SAP BTP and SAP HANA. Now, it's cloud mentioned here, but not necessarily cloud. But we could have a seamless integration with the help of APIs, user interfaces, workflows, processes, and events, and data with the help of data replication techniques. So if I am a developer, I have side-by-side extensibility options. If I am a key user, I have key user extensibility options. And if I am a developer on S4HANA, I could be a developer on S4HANA or a cloud, I have the developer extensibility options. So extensibility is an option available to everybody who's working on SAP, or no matter which technology I am a part of. Now, I know that there is side-by-side extension, and then there is in-app extension. So which one should I choose if I would like to make a decision tree or a flow diagram on the decision? We could consider all these three things. We could consider the persona, we could consider the architecture, or we could consider the options in the layers. We saw that in which layer is the extensibility option available on the CDS and the application and the UI. And that will probably govern our decision on which extensibility option to choose. So first, let's say the first question that would come is, who's our target group, or the user who's going to use this application? So if we are looking to extend a customer grade application, or if we are looking to use extend an application of S4, which is existing on S4HANA, or if you would like to extend a native mobile application or a Fiori freestyle UI5 application. If yes, then side-by-side extension is the way to go, and because of the given scenarios we discussed previously. Or we could also use the low-code and no-code tools available on SAP BTP, because side-by-side extension allows you to use the existing backend service and build your own UI on top of it. You could entirely go about and create a freestyle UI application, or create an entirely new persona on the standard services available. So it gives you maximum feasibility to be able to do to create an entirely customer grade application and entirely innovate the UI of it. If we are trying to extend a SaaS solution or software as a service solution, so and if we are looking to do it for many customers or for multiple core products, then in that case also side-by-side extension is the way to go. In case of the infrastructure and operations, if we are looking to extend an application which is independent of S4HANA Cloud infrastructure and operations, this application is flexible in terms of scalability, and downtime is not a very critical application. In that case also, yes, the side-by-side extensibility is the way to go, because in all those scenarios, you'll not be disturbing the standard functionality. But if we look at the system of records and transaction layer, if this transaction that you're trying to extend is tightly coupled with the standard transaction, and this we talked about moving anything on BTP also, because when we create a side-by-side extension, we essentially move that application to SAP BTP, and we ask our users to go via SAP BTP rather than using the exact standard application. So if it is very tightly coupled with your standard systems or records and standard transactions on S4, then we should rather go ahead with the key user extensibility or on stack development extensibility, depending on who's the user. If a key user, then key user extensibility. If a developer, then we should go ahead with the ABAP extensibility or the extensibility options available in ADT on Eclipse. Similarly, with S4HANA, if we are trying to extend an application where all the data, or most of the data which governs this application or is created by this application or read by this application resides on S/4HANA cloud or on-premise. There is a consistency required. We cannot interfere with the responsiveness of the application, and has to be very consistent. In that scenario also, we should go ahead with the in-app extensions. And then if we have to enable a custom service for side-by-side extension, basically. So at many times, the exact same service would not be applicable. We would like to choose a hybrid of standard service and a little bit of customization in it. And in that case, you're bound to do it on S4, or you're bound to use in-app extensions because that's where it originates. So if I would like to change the functionality at the bottom, I would have to do it where it originates. So I would be forced to do it on in-app. And then yes, we should in the end choose on the basis of which user or the persona we are looking for. So that's how we decide on side-by-side extension in an ideal SAP recommended way. But this does not go exactly same when we are actually working in a productive environment. A lot of other things like where would this application be deployed? Will it be deployed in a place with good connectivity and internet connection? How, I talked about responsiveness, how much speed, what is the transaction capability of this application we are trying to extend, how many times every day it will be used, how mission critical it is, because we would be integrating it with SAP BTP and bringing in probably 1 or 2 hops before a transaction finishes. How important is the logical unit of work to finish before anything else finishes? Because when we go to side-by-side extension, we essentially try to move everything from synchronous to asynchronous to avoid any kind of failures. So all those things also come into picture when we talk about side-by-side extension. So apart from this ideal scenario, those things also needs to be considered and are most usually the driving factors when we choose about extension. Apart from the fact that time also becomes a problem, at times I have seen people choosing in-app extension over side-by-side because it takes less time and less effort. So that also becomes a deciding factor at times. And at times it's just about understanding and available information. So side-by-side extension is not a popular choice as in my personal experience, because I don't see people using it much unless you want to entirely innovate an application. Um, a lot of extensibility is ABAP centric and is driven by the ABAP development persona or ABAP developers, because a lot of standard application, I think 90% of standard SAP is still written in ABAP. So that's why it is going to be ABAP centric, be it on premise or on cloud. Even if we do a side-by-side extension, you would essentially be extending it in ABAP environment. Although UI, if we are extending the UI of a standard, and if we are only extending the UI, it could be a CAP application, because we can consume any OData service, even if it is developed in ABAP on-premise solution in a CAP project. So if we are only extending the UI, the look and feel, then it can be done in CAP. But if we are doing anything else apart from that, even using side-by-side extension, we would be using ABAP environment. So modern ABAP, and which basically originates from ABAP on cloud and now is available on premise also, and it talks basically after ABAP 7.4. It talks about ABAP stack 7.4 and above. Is a lot is focused on user experience, It utilizes HANA capabilities well. Uh, it promotes efficient development and is also cloud ready. So yeah, modern ABAP development has many features above SAP's newer provisions or JavaScript for that matter, and then is a way to go because you could use your own role base. You can create browser-based applications which can run on any device now. So it is not GUI centric or limited that okay, if you're building an ABAP report, you have to go and log on to GUI. It utilizes HANA capabilities because now we have the capability to build CDS views. We can build AMDPs and push down all the complicated business logic to the advanced database that we have, HANA. And HANA can do it way faster than the application layer. So that also promotes uses of ABAP when we are talking about extensibility. ABAP comes with multiple techniques of authentication and authorization management, the global and instance levels of authentication. It also allows you to handle security uh, because we are talking about web applications now. Whenever somebody, until now, if we are working on on-premise solution and if we are building an ABAP report in ALV, we usually don't talk about security. We we do talk about authentication and authorization, which is also a flavor of security, but we don't talk about web security because this application is not live over the web. Any user application is usually is under a VPN or an intranet. But if we talk about SAP BTP, we could essentially create an ABAP application and deploy it and expose it over the web, make it a public application. And in that case, ABAP has to be capable of uh, handling higher threats, web threats, cyber attacks, and all that. And all that capability is also available now with SAP ABAP on cloud. And the cloud version obviously supports in-app extensibility for S/4HANA Cloud and side-by-side extension for any of the APIs available. It has to be whitelisted. We have looked into RESTful ABAP programming model and how extensibility is served with the help of ABAP on cloud. So when we talk about ABAP on cloud or RESTful ABAP programming model, uh, it has some concepts, some tools. It has a nice framework. It can support multiple languages, and it also has best practices in place. So all this together, you can call the entire RESTful ABAP programming model an enterprise-grade development platform. As it used to be on-premise, it is still an enterprise development programming model on cloud. Now, when we are developing an application using RESTful ABAP programming model, we create services, uh, and the services can be utilized to build Fiori UI applications or services or web APIs, like we saw while publishing. Um Cloud application programming model is available. Sorry, the RESTful ABAP programming model is available as a separate box, so it is not dependent on S4 anymore or ECC anymore. So you don't have to have entire ERP to be able to build an application in ABAP. So in earlier days, I need to have an S4 instance. I need to log on to GUI, and then only I will be able to code ABAP. If I have to build anything in ABAP. But now I can have ABAP without having entire S4 or ECC system, and that makes it a more universally available programming model. Um, and and since it has two versions which are cohesive now, first RAP was made available in ABAP on cloud and then made available in ABAP on premise. The same version of it is available on cloud and on premise. Because of all these reasons, ABAP also becomes the language of choice for extension and development of web applications. We have already discussed about what affects ABAP. So we have looked into RESTful ABAP and the layers of it. Under the lowest layer being the CDS layer, which enables the read operations. On top of that, we have the behavior definition that basically handles the business logic or enterprise application infrastructure. On top of that, we have the auditor service, the service binding and service definition, with the help of which we can expose our auditor services as UI or as APIs over the web. And how we reached here with the ABAP environment, right? So before 1909, it was called ABAP. Sorry. Before 7.5 ABAP platform, on the left hand side, the gray one, till 7.5 and until before 7.5, it was called classical ABAP programming. And it was the freestyle ABAP programming model. After that came the ABAP programming model for Fiori development, where we used to create SEGW projects to build auditor services. And in the same space also, there was a time of few years when we were building BOPF, Business Object Performance Framework based auditor services rather than SEGW. And once we came to BOPF, CDS started picking up. There was also a time when we used to publish auditor services using an annotation called @auditor_publish. And we had a premature Fiori elements-based framework by then. And this was also before 7.5 until 7.5. But now we have the ABAP RESTful program model, which first started with the ABAP on cloud, that allows us to build behavior definitions in core data services and business services. And on top of that, it allows us to build UI5 Fiori elements-based applications. So that's how SAP ABAP has grown from classical ABAP programming model to RESTful ABAP programming model. We have looked into this already, so I'll skip it. I would also skip this. It is a little technical in nature. So I think I added a little more from the ABAP side. So I'll skip it for now because I don't think it should be here. Tree reflects the structure of the ABAP object. So a business object basically, and it could relate to any document for that matter, has usually a root and child entity and the leaf entity. Any standard business object structure. Oh, I think I already. Just give me a second. Probably there's a repeat. Okay, so sorry about that. I had some slides which are messed up, I think, in the sequence. So, although a little bit of understanding on how that works helps to understand the different layers in which extension can be done. If we talk about extensibility, and if we talk about RESTful ABAP program model and extensibility in terms of RESTful ABAP, the auditor layer is extensible. We can, so let's say if I have a get operation on an entity, I can add new entities in an auditor service. If I would like to add new custom actions, I can add new custom actions in an auditor service. So auditor service layer is extensible on that RESTful ABAP program model we were talking about, wherein this auditor service can be is used in building SAP Fiori or Fiori elements based application, cloud platform or mobile platform 3.0 or SAP gateway. And yeah, and then wherever the auditor service is used, the extension that we have made at auditor layer can be exposed from there. Now for design principles, and these are probably design principles for any application development. If we are building on-premise or on cloud, it has to be role-based, should be adaptive, should be simple, coherent, and then the user experience should be delightful. So underneath that, you could have multiple UI technologies. We could have a SAP UI5 based application. We could have an iOS based application, an Android or any other technology for that matter. And we develop applications for using SAP Fiori tools or Fiori elements, or we could also develop applications using SAP UI5 or native mobile applications. When we are developing extensions using ABAP, we would be using ADT, and Eclipse is the way to go. Eclipse can help us create extension projects and extension series views. It also supports debugging and profiling and static and dynamic logging of these extensions. About the ABAP environment. ABAP environment also aligns with the strategy of transformation to cloud and clean core, and which is kind of the buzzword these days. We can develop ABAP cloud applications which are entirely decoupled with the digital core, and we can also leverage our existing ABAP knowledge and reuse the existing ABAP available ABAP APIs with minimal change in ABAP on cloud. So that adds a lot of value to the transformation projects you could work on, or migration projects we are working on, or even to the new application development. We could also create custom applications on ABAP on cloud and probably make it available, commercialize it, make it available to the customers to just utilize it with a NCP MA or pay as you go kind of a model. So that allows you to commercialize your ABAP applications with the help of ABAP on cloud. Since it can be scaled, so even if you have a huge user base someday, you can easily scale your applications. So this is basically a value proposition for SAP BTP ABAP environment. I'll move on. Now, ABAP platform or ABAP cloud platform is available as a service in SAP BTP or SAP BTP ABAP environment. Now, how that works is SAP, and we can look at it in contrast with Cloud Foundry. How it works in contrast with Cloud Foundry is we have the tools. The ADT tools can be used on Eclipse to develop ABAP-based projects or extensions, even for ABAP Cloud Foundry, or sorry, ABAP in SAP BTP. The ABAP Cloud Cockpit or Build Work Zone these days can be used uh, to deploy and host these applications or extensions. We can use Git or GCTS to be able to manage the life cycles of our custom or extended applications on SAP BTP under SAP BTP ABAP environment. Uh, our application could utilize the HANA database underneath it, and with connectivity feature, it can utilize the services available on premise with the help of Cloud Connector or other cloud-based web APIs or any other third-party cloud tools like Concur, SuccessFactors, or Ariba. Hand in hand with using SAP BTP services uh, like document translations and so on. ABAP Cloud or ABAP environment in cloud or ABAP SaaS or PaaS solution is also called as Steampunk at times. And this is, I think, a couple of years back. This was started by the SAP developers advocates. They started calling it Steampunk or embedded ABAP. If you for lifecycle management of any application or extension developed on SAP ABAP on cloud, we can use Git-based CTS or GCTS to manage the extension code or ABAP code. It can also be used for code review and transformation of ABAP code and transportation. There is another tool called ABAP Git available. For this, we need to install a plugin in Eclipse, and that can allow us to version manage and version control ABAP objects and ABAP extensions. We'll look into GCTS a little when we talk about the transportation. We have already looked into CAP versus RAP. Sorry, this is a repeat. Sorry about the repeat slides from the RESTful ABAP discussion, but that's pretty much the extensibility options available on SAP BTP, and which is majorly the section of SAP BTP side-by-side extensions, which can be created on top of the database tables or applications or OData services, custom user interface, and then that custom user interface can be extended on Fiori Launchpad. At any of these levels, the extensions can be created. Extension possibilities can be explored on the Extensibility Explorer, and I have also attached this extensibility guide that helps us, go about how to extend an application with side-by-side extension or in-app extension. I could go ahead and demo creation of an extension, an extensible CDS views, but that would become highly technical. Any questions here on the possibilities of extensions and how we choose which extensibility options to go ahead with?
Jay, how about like this events, right? Event mesh. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what type of event mesh available and when to use to which scenario? So, because maybe during the initial of this training, right, I was talking about some scenarios where we want to call that some apps available in SAP BTP from S4HANA based on some event, like upon clicking some buttons from the transaction, right?
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
just want to call the logics available in SAP BTP. This is we are actually working on some of the POCs or the projects. Um,
Mhm.
Maybe today or later, somewhere can you cover like about more about
Yeah, so we
this
would
mesh?
we would talk about the integration suite, and the event mesh is a part of the SAP's
Right.
integration suite. So we'll talk about. So what I what I what I have been thinking is extensibility is essentially on how would you extend and where would you extend and how would you choose which approach to use. Now we are talking about, we can call any service, right, from an extension that we have created. It can be an event from event mesh, but the hows and what's of event mesh we can talk about during the when we talk about the integration suite, if that's okay.
Yeah, fine. It is going to cover later point, right? You are going to cover the integration suite.
Yeah, we'll talk about integration suite.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Then we can talk during that time. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I mean, uh, so let's say if I have a standard application and if I would like to customize it, if I would to create an extension in it, I have two ways to do it. I could create an in-app extension, or I could go ahead and create a side-by-side extension. Uh, if I look at SAP's standard functionality, and especially talking about a Fiori application today, now even if you go to the Fiori apps explored, uh, not all of the applications are app based. So this approach is not applicable to all the application. The old applications which are SEGW based, and we looked into the ABAP evolution. So if anything which is available before 7.5, it would probably will be on classical ABAP, and in those cases, the classical extension techniques would be applicable. But if we're talking about anything and the recent ABAP and the modern ABAP technology available, RESTful ABAP available on cloud and on premise, usually you would have a RAP-based Fiori application. You wouldn't have um, um, an old Fiori application, a classical ABAP-based Fiori application, or WDA or WDJ applications. So this is not talking about those applications, only talking about the RESTful ABAP-based Fiori applications. As a standard app would have a database table or multiple database tables. On top of that, we would have application logic at the ABAP or CDS level, and we would have auditor service on top of it, and it would be exposed as Fiori user interface in Fiori Launchpad. Um, we could create an in-app extension at the database level. We can add custom fields at the CDS level also. We can add some extensions at auditor service level also, or you could create an entirely new auditor service also and expose it with your custom UI5 also, or you can create a UI adaptation on the SAP's UI as well. So that's with the in-app extensions. So these are the places where you could hook up hook custom actions or custom code and then change the functionality of the existing app, or you could go about by creating your own entirely custom application. When we talk about side-by-side extensions, you could create an entire parallel branch wherein with in parallel to the standard database, you have your own database in cloud. Parallel to the standard ABAP and CDS layer, you could have your own ABAP or CDS layer in cloud. You could also have a Java or a JS layer because of the cap. And parallel to the standard OData service, we could have our own OData service, which would be a hybrid solution consuming the standard OData service. On top of the standard UI interface, we could have our own interface. And on top of the Fiori launchpad available on premise, there could be a launchpad on BTP as well. But they can interchangeably act as a central launchpad because even the applications deployed on BTP can be exposed in launchpad on premise and vice versa. And all these layers we talked about underneath, the database layer, the application layer, and the OData service layer, they can integrate or interact with their on-premise counterparts with the help of data replication or event integration, like we just talked about event mesh. We can use cloud platform services on premise, or we can use S/4HANA services on cloud. So both way communication can also be done. So these are the possibilities uh, and uh, and the places in which extensions can be made and what kind of extensions. I'm not going into how to do these extensions because that is highly technical in nature and it cannot be done in a no code or low code way also. So only that much, but we would go ahead and look into the event integration part wherein we would see the event mesh discussion when we are talking about integration suite.
Jay, one basic question. So now whoever like migrates to S4HANA, maybe from ECC. Okay, so this has become a mandatory to get this BTP, right? Or they can still survive without BTP. But anyways, when they are buying S4, so definitely they may be getting some credits from BTP, right? Like I mean, they get this cloud access, right? BTP cloud access.
I can't say actually. I haven't been a part of this actual onboarding in real life yet. So I don't know if it is mandatory, but whosoever I have seen from my personal experience, they had BTP and they had some free credits also. So it might be that SAP goes ahead and says, okay, try it out and see how it looks, how you feel about it. So, but I don't know for sure that how it goes.
I mean, like without BTP, they can still consume this S4HANA, right, as an individual ERP. But
Yes, yes.
right now, if you see this PIPO, right, it is no more in future, right? It is all as part of integration suite. So definitely you have to onboard into SAP BTP as well, right?
Yeah. So in future, if for integration, either you'll have to go to a third party integration tool, or if you would like to use SAP's PI, we will have to onboard onto SAP BTP. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Even I mean, they say they would like to do away with on-premise edition at all of ERP, but I don't see that happening in near future. So right now, if anybody has S4 on-premise or S4 dedicated private cloud license, I think they would be able to do, and if they don't have any integrations. So like I have seen people using this IBM API Connect in place of PI. So there are certain integration tools, but yes, certainly you'll have to go out of SAP if you don't want to entirely if you entirely don't want to go into any cloud-based solution, even if it is an integration service.
Because I see a few large organizations. Okay, so they are migrating to S/4HANA from their legacy, but I
Mhm.
see that they never talk about BTP. So their strategy, their roadmaps, wherever I seen, it's completely independent within the S/4HANA. So basically, they are more focusing on shifting their business entirely into S/4HANA. But nowhere I've seen they talk about SAP BTP.
Yeah, because not it is not necessary. They might be having an old license of PI, uh, or they might have bought it already. But if you, or they might be going with another integration. So the only thing that SAP has announced, I think, that is will not be available as an on-premise solution is integration suite. I think everything else is still available on premise as an option.
Right.
So
So
uh,
definitely, if they want to replace PAP, they have to go to integration suite. So that time, definitely BTP will be there.
yeah, if they want to replace PI, upgrade and still stick to an SAP technology, they would have to go to BTP for sure.
Right.
If
Okay.
they would, if they would be ready to leave SAP, then it's a different scenario. You could go with an IBM solution, or anybody else's, and then probably still not use a cloud-based solution. But how long? I don't think people can run from this for very long. Some or the other way, you would end up going to the cloud.
Yeah, I would say like these people they are like kind of a late catch up. So they are just migrating from ECC. They have started thinking about S/4HANA. Maybe in future, definitely they have to adapt to SAP BTP as well. But some people who were recently, or maybe the last year, 1 year back, who have started migrating, right, or thinking of this transformation. So they are also certainly taking the advantages of SAP BTP, right? Some of the build apps or something, they started already using that. Some companies I have seen that also.
Yes, yes, yes. So I have also
So
seen people gradually going towards SAP BTP for certain reports, or at least a little bit for integrations. Majorly, yes. Uh, for orchestration, many of them I have seen going to BTP. So for I I can't actually predict, but from the latest innovations of SAP, SAP BTP is the most successful one. Underneath BTP, there has been tongue few things which have flopped, like SAP IoT or Leonardo, or SAP Conversational AI. I think it did not pick up business, and that's why it was slowly deprecated or done away with. Um, but this is something which is being talked about, and people are actually onboarding and buying licenses of SAP BTP. So I think for whatever reason, if I was a late catcher, or if I had a huge implementation on ECC, or if I'm too conservative about my data and application infrastructure, for whatever reason I have not gone to S4 yet, or if I have a huge customized solution which nobody was ready to migrate, so, or it was a difficult migration. So there can be many reasons why people are still on ECC. It could be a huge investment. It is a huge investment, um, and is not a business priority. There can be many ways. For whatever reason, they have not moved to S4 yet, and the more delay they are making, they would end up having BTP for sure.
and one more, Jay, maybe based on your experience, you can answer me. See what
Mhm.
happened. Let's say the organization moving from ECC to S/4HANA. So it's a large investment, right? So basically, they want to consume S/4HANA, so they have to invest a lot. And okay, so let's move some applications into BTP. Okay, again, BTP is also with a lot of investment again, right? Where you are subscribing to what are the services, right? Again, it's a cost involved, too much cost involved, right?
Mm.
So how do you see the return of investment, basically? Because earlier we were having only ECC, but now you are moving to S/4HANA as well as BTP, like more of the investment side. Do you see that business is getting the return of investment in a better way, or it is going? How do you see there? Maybe it's a generic question, not about this. And just because you might have seen some people transform from legacy to these both at the same time, but with the double of investment, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's a very, very important question, and many businesses do ask this. I have not seen people get return on investment yet because it is fairly new. It would take, I think, some time to get the ROI and then probably mm, get into profit. But there are some forecasts, and on the basis of that, it is very much plausible to do that because first thing is scalability, and this is majorly when we talk about really huge businesses, global businesses, uh, and who are expanding their operations in multiple regions. And in that case, scaling a business to a whole new region takes a lot. I mean, if you compare it with the cost of onboarding onto BTP, it would be exponentially high if you would like to expand your business into a new region and set up a new entire data center. So in those scenarios, SAP BTP becomes a more affordable option, and that is the other end of the spectrum. Like I'm talking about the clients like PNG or Google or Tesla for that matter. So on the lower end, like really small businesses who cannot afford to set up or buy a HANA license, or even if they afford, it would be a huge investment. They go with the pay as you go model. So I have also seen people, like I was saying, uh, build their entire ERP on SAP BTP or get S4 HANA Cloud, and then as soon as their operations, so let's say they have only operations in APAC region, right? So all their operations happen mostly in the same time zone. Excuse me. So they just switch it off. So the possibility to be able to only keep your ERP running in during daytime and switch it off during the night time. You only pay until you're switched on, right? Pay as you go is another model available in SAP BTP. So in that case, they end up paying very less to be able to utilize the S/4HANA capabilities. So for them also, it gives ROI because they did not have to buy a license and set up an infrastructure, and that initial cost is too high for S/4HANA. But anybody who's in the middle, right? They they need to be very cautious because it's a slippery slope from there.
Yeah. So because why? Because I am just asking is like one real example in my past projects, right? So they were into ECC.
Mm.
So we have used some web portal based on the SAP EP, the enterprise portal, the very older versions, where we deployed some like applications where the external users can access that web link to access the ECC. But later in there are a lot of disadvantages of this EP. So we just on top of ECC we installed this Fiori and moved all these applications from EP into Fiori, right? But still again the users are can able to use these apps, right? Like a better UI, and they still
Mhm.
access the ECC. But we have never seen any investment over there, but still users are getting the better experience, etc. And the backend
Mm.
is still ECC. But because when we are moving to BTP, we are having a very fancy or trendy the user experiences, right? The same way. But again, here it's all cost.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And most of the businesses would struggle there when they are trying to move to SAP BTP because then again there is a huge spectrum, right? Some businesses can invest that much in R&D and see if they get the ROI or not. They have the enough width to be able to do that, but the others might not have it, and they're only using an ERP to be able to support their businesses. So in those scenarios, it's difficult to move to SAP BTP. because initially there is no return unless you have a use case already available. So if I already know, if my business has to integrate with some APIs over the cloud, right? And if it has to be web based, then let's say if I am trying to have an and like what we yeah, an e-commerce business, so and in that case BTP could give me the whole solution end to end, wherein on-prem ECC or S4 will not be able to do that. Then BTP is a good choice to go ahead with. But if I already have ECC, like you're saying, and I have also seen many people developing Fiori applications on ECC also using the classical SEGW based OData services, and um, they were able to do that um, for quite some time. I am not in contact with these folks now, but I remember developing Fiori applications on ECC as well. So, and then that too with some Indian giants. So people have successfully uh, operated on ECC with new user interface as well. So it's not that the older ERP solutions cannot support good UI. I think it's more about the advanced software as a services available, like AI and ML or analytics and all those which are not as good when we talk about when they're on-prem counterparts. They're not that great in their on-prem versions.
Yes, definitely. Because what happened whenever you go to customer, like
Hmm.
what is the investment, right? The estimation. So definitely I see. Okay, the larger companies definitely they get a benefit from BTP because it's all like most advanced like JNA and many applications are there.
Yeah. So that, and then there is an outlier group also. So let's say, and then this is a real scenario. Two students from BITS Pilani had started a startup with about $2,000. It's a startup based on AI and ML, and I think it just went into millions a few last week or last week. So and they have been developing on top of SAP BTP. So although it didn't have to do anything with the ERP solution because they did not use any of the ERP part of it because they didn't have a business to run. They just had to build an AI ML based solution, and they just wanted a platform. So
Right.
it is not about BTP because they could have used any other cloud platform for that matter. But this would also happen. So and that's probably the uh, the side of SAP also, the far side of SAP also, because BTP keeping BTP so open is because you wouldn't want to limit it to ERP usage only.
Right. This one is like one of the selling part for BTP. What happened? Like, it's a main your enterprise ERP is there, but apart from this, you can use this BTP to create your own custom applications, right? Like without involving,
Yes.
because it has a development tool, own database, own front end, right? Because many
Yeah.
companies will have the ERPs and parallelly they have a lot of custom applications developed based on many technologies, like standalone uh, applications. Just one department will call, I need this application. So they will quickly build one front end and back end and they will give them. Right. Even everything can be done using this BTP. So they can maintain one environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Okay,
Uh,
Jay. You can
yeah.
more. I just interrupt you a lot. Yeah.
No. Nice
Yeah.
discussion.